Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today. We really appreciate your time here at the Power of One, streamlining through unified IT management. My name is Matt Law. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at Ninja One, and joining me today is Jeff Hunter. He's one of our sales engineer managers. I'm super happy that you're here and interested in learning and seeing firsthand how Ninja One endpoint management can really help IT departments of all sizes improve efficiency and service levels. So again, thanks for being here. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at the agenda. But just a reminder, this session is being recorded, so happy to share it out at the end. In terms of our agenda, we're going to kind of kick things off today with just sort of a quick acknowledgement of some very common IT management challenges. Next, I'm going to share a little bit about Ninja One for those of you who might not be overly familiar with our company. After that, we're going to dive right into some live demonstrations led by Jeff. We'll kind of walk through some key challenges and pain points for various IT roles. In this case, we'll look at from the perspectives of kind of the IT infrastructure and operations side of things, cybersecurity, and help desk. After that, I'm going to share just a few recommendations in terms of next steps. We're also going to announce today's prize winner. And then finally, we'll open up for Q&A and additional demonstrations if you're up for it. So speaking of Q&A, please enter your questions either in the Q&A panel there in Zoom, or if you prefer, just enter it in the chat, and we'll be glad to collect all those. We're going to do our best to answer them at the end of the session, because I really want to make sure we get through all of the demo stuff first and foremost, and then we'll come back and answer your questions. If we run out of time, what we'll do is we'll circle back around with you after the fact and make sure that your questions are addressed. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and keep us moving along here. So real quick, as a product manager, and even probably more so, Jeff as a sales engineer spends a lot of time speaking with customers, partners, and prospects. Folks really, working in IT organizations of all sizes, spanning various industries. And what we've learned is that though there are, a wide variety of challenges identified, there's a few themes that really bubble to the surface quite often. Essentially, it's not super easy being in IT today, right? There's no shortage of siloed monolithic tools, and these often add unnecessarily complexity and costs in terms of acquisition and training and ongoing management of the tools themselves. Some that require dedicated headcount. Then we look at management of very distributed endpoints today, Windows, Mac, Linux, mobile devices, networking devices, et cetera. There's really a mix of local, remote, and those that have intermittent connectivity for like folks who are road warriors. There's also the challenge of just very time-consuming and manual processes that don't scale. And these are the gifts that keep on giving, right? For example, patching. I was at RSA 2023 last week in San Francisco. So many of the folks who stopped by our booth were really trying to get a better handle on the patching process. It can be a real thorn in the side of IT. Then there's the challenge of just endpoint security fundamentals, either lacking or just inconsistently applied. So, there's this requirement for deep visibility and into the endpoints, the ability to consistently patch, the ability to harden those endpoints and minimize the attack surface, and the challenge of having reliable backups, right? So, and finally, it's a high pressure job. I mean, too many tasks, not enough hours in the day, sometimes not enough hours in the night. And, there's also there's this desire, right, from a career perspective of having time for more interesting and impactful projects, more strategic projects. This can lead to burnout and, hey, the pursuit of new opportunities where the grass may appear to be seemingly greener. So, I imagine, some or maybe even all of these resonate with you. The good news is that Ninja One can provide some relief, and Jeff's going to be demonstrating that in just a couple of minutes. So real quick about Ninja One, we were originally founded back in 2013 for the MSP space, right? We got our start in this space because that's a very particularly demanding space. MSPs have to keep their clients happy by ensuring uptime, maximum productivity and superior support, while also carving out time to pursue additional clients, right? It is very tough, a very competitive space. It's not for the faint of heart. Our reputation and success in the MSP space has really fueled sort of this organic expansion into IT departments. That's because many MSPs and IT departments have similar challenges. And we've been laser focused on creating solutions that fast attract time to value, are super easy to use, and at the same time, right, augment the experience with the ability to provide very stellar customer support with an average response time of 30 minutes and an average CSAT score that hovers around 98. So, if you read any customer reviews on G2 or Capterra, Software Advice, and others, you're typically going to find that we're consistently ranked as a leader in IT management. And today, NinjaOne has more than 10,000 customers managing more than 4 million devices. So we basically, simplify common IT workflows by consolidating all functionality into a single, information-rich and easy to navigate interface. And because NinjaOne is cloud native, your IT team is going to find management of endpoints to be the same, right? The same familiar experience, regardless of the device location or the type. And our core platform streamlines many critical workflows, such as patch management, software deployment, monitoring and alerting, and the automation of tasks. And using automation, you can really free up time to focus on more strategic objectives and initiatives. And in addition, we do have a variety of add-ons that you might find helpful as well. Remote access, which is via TeamViewer or Splashtop, which are integrated and can be initiated directly with from the Ninja console. Cloud first, file and folder, as well as image backups, ticketing, endpoint security, for example, integrations with Bitdefender and Webroot, which can also be deployed and managed from within our console. So, and finally, we offer a bunch of integrations with key solutions that, some of which you're probably leveraging today. So, as I briefly touched on before, there are many reasons why organizations of all sizes choose NinjaOne. It's often a combination of several things. Again, our mission here is really to increase the speed and the agility of your IT team. We helped you to automate and remediate endpoints, even the remote endpoints. We're SaaS-based, this agent-based, there's no VPN required. We're really designed to be easy to use and provide a quick and snappy interface that our customers love. Admins can typically become productive on the Ninja platform really in just a matter of hours. It's also very easy to deploy Ninja from the get-go. Low cost of ownership model. Our admin to endpoint ratios are really tops. And in fact, what we see or what we hear from customers using Ninja is most of their admins can manage an average of about 100 more or so endpoints effectively without having a detriment or detrimental impact on their ability to provide good quality support for their users. And then one thing I'll add here too is that our product roadmap is very heavily influenced by our customers. Our product management and development teams really truly does leverage feedback to prioritize the development of new features. I don't know if you've seen, but we do have a public roadmap on our website. You can see kind of recent things that I think recent improvements and enhancements. You can also see what's coming up. And again, the things that are coming up in the near term and even a little bit further looking are really heavily driven by customer feedback. We really want to make sure that this platform is serving your needs. So that's something I think is pretty cool about NinjaOne. So, I mentioned our stellar support a couple minutes ago, and, we understand the importance of providing exceptional support. In fact, I know that's often the determining factor in being selected over our competitors. There's been no denying that IT management is a very crowded space. So customer support is undoubtedly a difference maker for NinjaOne. So again, free and unlimited onboarding, training, and support really helps us to ensure your IT team provides the best possible service for your users. Now we're going to get to the good stuff. We're going to dive right into the demos by Jeff. So he's going to walk us through some features and benefits of Ninja endpoint management from the perspective of various IT roles, right? Sort of addressing key challenges for each of these groups. For instance, we'll start with kind of the IT infrastructure and operations viewpoint. We'll then look at cybersecurity and then help desk. So, as Jeff is demoing these things, and if something piques your interest, again, please go ahead and pose your questions in the chat panel or the Q&A panel if you'd prefer. Pose them while they're still top of mind. We're going to do our best to circle back around and answer all these questions at the end of the session. And with that, let me go ahead and pass it over to Jeff.
Thank you very much, Matt. And hopefully I have stolen the screen share away from you and you are now seeing the Ninja dashboard. And as Matt said, we're going to be looking at this from sort of professional / infrastructure perspective, more top down. So, looking at the infrastructure that Ninja allows you to put in place is, sorry, Matt, I'm getting a Zoom is crashing on me message. So hopefully you are still hearing this.
Yep, still hearing it.
Good. So yeah, looking at this from more of a top-down perspective, how does the infrastructure that Ninja allows you to put in place ultimately allow you to do more in your day-to-day operation? We're going to start by looking at something that I hear all the time from people who are using another tool in the space, which is that this looks like a modern, intuitive UI. The barrier to entry to learning Ninja is relatively low. It's very easy to figure out what to do inside of the platform. Now, that is something that we assist with as a part of the unlimited trainings that we offer. So anytime you have a question about the Ninja product, it's very easy to go and actually speak to somebody who will provide advice about your particular situation and what the next steps might be to make it the most streamlined and efficient thing to do. Now, if you want to use any of our training documentation, we have that accessible in the top right via the question mark. So we can go to our dojo, which is actually just our Zendesk portal. And from here, we have our community forum, very useful, especially the script share section. You can maybe steal a script or two, or even just ideas for what you might want to automate through Ninja. Our own documentation that we've created, but then we also have an extensive video library. And you'll see we try to break these down into bite-sized chunks. So if you're looking for something in particular, we've got a whole host of videos here that'll walk you through the process step by step. And let's start with something that's going to be a common situation for anybody who's starting a Ninja account, which is how do I get the agent out? Now we're going to go to the plus sign in the top right here, and this has a lot of the common actions that you might take when configuring Ninja or during the day-to-day operation. We'll talk more about Ninja ticketing and the seamless single pane experience that you get by using that in conjunction with the RMM. But you'll see some other options down here. We could add a device. That's where we're going to generate our installer in just a second. We could add new users in here. We could generate a report, or we could expand as we, merge or acquire other organizations. We can go ahead and expand to account for additional organizational units within the RMM. We're going to start by deploying Ninja, and you'll see a few different options here. Obviously, at the top, we have the endpoint agent, and that's going to be for Windows, Mac, and select Linux distributions. Now, once you deploy the endpoint side, you might want to also monitor your infrastructure in terms of your virtual hosts. So ESXi hosts or Hyper-V hosts, we can go ahead and monitor the virtualization metrics for you. Again, getting that single pane view of the overall health of your host, not just the individual agent at the device level. Now we can also monitor maybe some critical network infrastructure in two different forms. One might be from the public side. So you might want to monitor the public side of a firewall so that if that firewall goes offline, then you know that the internet is likely down at that particular location. Now, if you want to monitor something behind a LAN, this would be more for switches, routers, firewalls. The Ninja NMS or network management system allows you to again have that single pane experience whenever your critical network infrastructure is experiencing any sort of issue. But we'll start with deploying here. You can see generating the installer for Windows, Mac, and Linux. We just need to select the organization we want to register to, and then we can generate our installer. Now the installer will provide us with two options. One is the actual MSI itself. Now we can go ahead and push that out through any application deployment tool that you currently have in place. It may be another RMM or it may be a dedicated application deployment tool. Now we also have a link as well, and that's a very convenient option. That's a cloud-hosted link. It's a direct download link that's publicly accessible. So you could email that to somebody and they'd be able to install the Ninja agent by downloading the link, assuming they do have admin rights on their computer. However, you can also use this link within a script. So if you have the ability to access the command line through a remote access tool, or if you have another RMM, something that can more broadly run scripts across your environment, this is another great way to easily transition into Ninja. Now, we also have another option for Active Directory environments. So if you do have an on-prem domain controller, you can go to our search menu here, and then we'll see the option to select a checkbox next to this device, which is a domain controller. And then I can go ahead and run an Active Directory discovery job. Now, this can operate in two different ways. The top option, the ad hoc option here, this is one time. And so that would be sort of a one-time deployment of just the devices that we're currently finding in the OU paths that we're specifying. However, I also get the option to do a scheduled deployment, which is going to be a reoccurring deployment. And so at that point, I can go ahead and come in here, find my specific OU, and then I'll have the option to go ahead and deploy to that specific OU. I just need to add in my domain admin credentials up here, and then I need to set a schedule for when this is going to occur. And this could be daily, weekly, or monthly. So this is just yet another avenue to get devices into Ninja in a seamless automated fashion, so that you don't have to worry about ensuring that the agent is deployed individually per device. Now let's look at this from not a different perspective or point of view, but a slightly different angle in terms of expansion. So as your operation expands, again, I've certainly been a part of organizations that acquired other locations that did things in a completely different way, and I sort of had to account for that. Now, how would we take that action within Ninja? You can see here on the dashboard that we have these organizational units on the left-hand side here, and these are essentially just containers. How do you want to organize everything? Now, if I go into administration and then organizations here, this is where I can manage the settings for those different organizational units. It'll include things like the Active Directory deployment we just discussed, as well as remote access settings and deployment. However, if I need to create a new organizational unit, I can just go up here. Maybe we're expanding. We'll go ahead and expand to account for the Wayland-Yutani organization that we're going to be absorbing. And that would be a new organizational unit that I could then deploy devices through. Now, a key thing to know about Ninja is that most of the important settings that you want to account for are going to be within policies. This is everything that's creating the monitors and alerts that would show on your dashboard, and it's also converting those into tickets, either using Ninja ticketing or a third-party service like ConnectWise or Autotask that integrates directly into Ninja. It also would include your patching settings, obviously of critical importance to, I'm sure, everybody on this call. It would include your integrated antivirus settings, and then it would also include third-party application patching. So a lot of really important settings are contained within your policy. Now, how does that policy then get assigned to your device? It's all based around the device type within the organization. So right here, we can see Windows desktops and laptops. Ninja will identify these three types that I'm highlighting right here: desktop, laptop, and server. So all desktops, they're assigned to the generic Windows workstation policy here, and then all Windows servers, they're assigned to the Windows server policy. Servers and workstations are always going to be naturally separate within Ninja. There's never going to be any cross-pollination between those two. Now, this is a great way to get my new organizational unit, so all the devices in that particular unit are separated from everybody else. But like I said, all the important settings are within policies. So how do we ensure that the proper policies get assigned to those devices? Well, we just saw how we mapped them, but now let's actually look at creating the policy itself. Now, most of you or many of you may be fine with one single policy. Changing policies or adding additional policies really comes down to where your settings are going to vary. And if they're not going to vary, if everybody's going to be using the same settings, then everybody can use the same policy. But as I said, sometimes when there's a merger or acquisition, a takeover of some sort, there is going to be differences in settings that you need to account for, different applications that need to be deployed or patched, different patching schedules. And so to account for that, we can go ahead and create a new policy. We'll just call this our Wayland-Yutani workstations policy. And again, we'll select the role here as being for desktops and laptops as opposed to servers. And then I have the option to establish a parent, which isn't required. You could have it just be a standalone policy. But if you're going to be using mostly the same settings with just some slight tweaks, I think it's beneficial to establish a parent because that gives you better top-down management capability. And again, you'll see once we come into the policies here, that there are a lot of important settings, the conditions, which are our monitors. This is what we're looking at. This is what we're alerting on. And then again, what we are potentially creating tickets off of. And we'll also see patching, integrated antivirus, and software patching, as well as our backups here. And we'll talk more about this later in the call, sort of the nitty-gritty of these individual settings. This is really just to look at more of the broad view of how you're going to be able to get your settings in place and manage them across your different devices, assuming that not everything is going to be able to be consistent across the entire board. So that is generally speaking how we're getting the infrastructure into place through Ninja so that you have the capability to manage your devices and just do more. And let's look at one thing that we can provide to sort of help our end users in this case. If we go into the accounts section, you'll see that we actually have multiple types of users. Now, everybody on this call would be a technician. We would be a sysadmin, or we would otherwise be looking at this sort of view where we're seeing dashboards and policies and reports. However, we have a different type of user within Ninja that's known as an end user. Now, if I log in as an end user, I get an extremely different view. Looks just like this. You can see here that this view will show me some devices. Those devices are assigned per user. And with that assignment of those devices, I can then have the ability to use a remote access tool to remote into that device. You can see here we have Splashtop as well as TeamViewer. Those are the two remote access integrations that we offer today. And so if I wanted to facilitate remote access for my end users, maybe during the pandemic, they were working from home and they needed access to their office machines, this is a great way for you to facilitate that. We don't charge for the end users. So you're really able to reuse that licensing that you have for remote access for your technicians. And you're able to also use that for your end users as well. Again, no VPN required, so you're able to easily facilitate that through Ninja. Now, an important point that I'll talk about later, MFA being mandatory within Ninja, so all users having to enter some form of MFA in order to access the platform. Now, what other options could we potentially give to our end users? Let's look from the desktop view. If we go into the general section, you'll see our branding here. Now, case in point, with this branded portal that we saw here, you do have the ability to go ahead and input your own logos and sort of white label this platform so nobody sees anything Ninja related. But we also have our sys-tray option here. Now, the sys-tray allows us to provide resources to our end users. You get to build this menu tree out exactly as you see fit. I want to highlight one specific thing that I think is very useful here, which is the help request form. Now, this is a way for you to allow your end users to easily submit tickets into Ninja Ticketing without having to open up and type out an email. It's a little bit more standardized. It looks something like this. You can see in the bottom right of my sys-tray here, I have my Ninja RMM agent icon. You can, of course, change the hover over text that I saw there to whatever you'd like. And I get my menu tree that my internal IT department has put on this machine. You'll see a couple options here to open up the help desk portal via a URL. I could also open up a pre-composed email through my default email client, which is Outlook in this case. But we're demonstrating the help request form, and this is what it would look like. Filling out a few basic bits of information here, taking a screenshot or otherwise including an image file. And so this makes it very standardized in terms of the information that your end users are submitting. But one thing you'll see here is that with the help request form, there is more information, everything that I'm highlighting right here, that is all pulled via variables and included in the body of the email that gets sent. Now, this can go into Ninja Ticketing. This can go into Autotask or ConnectWise, but it can also go to any support email address. So if you're not using Ninja Ticketing or a service that directly integrates with us, you can very easily direct this to whatever service you are using to manage your requests. Now, we mentioned the ability to grant end user access through this type of view here, but you may be in a situation where you need to allow technician access, but you want to water down what is accessible to that particular person. And you can do that using our role-based access control. You can see our account roles right here, which allows us to control what somebody has the ability to see. And this plays into the RMM, of course, because you can restrict access to certain devices or certain tools, maybe restrict them from accessing certain types or categories of scripts so they can't do anything that's too harmful. And then it also plays into the ticketing system in terms of controlling what views or what tickets somebody has the ability to see and correspond with. So we're going to switch a point of view here. We are going to go over into more of the cyber security realm and how can Ninja help you from a single pane perspective with ensuring that you are secure and also giving you the confidence in your RMM platform that it itself is secure given the power that an RMM is going to have. We'll start by talking with, I think, probably the table stakes for security, which is talking about the antivirus that you're deploying on your endpoints. Now, we offer a few different types of integrated AV today. We offer WebRoot, and then we also offer the AV and malware engine from Bitdefender. Now, as a note, we are expanding that integration to include the full Gravity Zone suite. That is going to be available sometime over the summer in the coming months. So look for expansion on that end as well. Now, of course, you may be utilizing an AV that is not within Ninja, or not one of the integrations that we offer. Now, in terms of deployment and managing whether the AV is installed on a machine, you can use the Ninja platform to ensure that all of your devices are protected, even if you're not using an integrated antivirus. If we go into the search menu on the left-hand side here, we saw earlier how we could select the box next to a device here and take actions on it by running a script, rebooting, starting our software or Windows patching. But then we also have the ability to use those AD discovery jobs. A lot of good options here. I won't go over all of them right now because we really want to look at the filters at the very top here. Now, these filters can limit down by org and location, by the type of device. Maybe I just want to see my workstations as opposed to any other device types that I have within Ninja. I might also want to look for only devices that are online versus being offline, or healthy versus being healthy. I'll go ahead and select just devices that are online right now. And then I get a whole host of additional filters that I can use to find specific devices. Maybe I want to find any devices with BitLocker disabled. That might be a security action that I want to automate. In this example, however, we're looking for installed software. And so we can use the software inventory to find anybody who does not have any version of a particular product. Now, just to keep this consistent in the AV space, I'm going to go ahead and select Bitdefender here. And so now I can see that there are 3 currently online devices that do not have some form of Bitdefender installed. Now, what I can do is save this as a search, and I'll say this is does not have Bitdefender. Now, this is useful informationally because I can hit the star right there, and that gives me a favorite over on the left-hand side. So I'm always going to have quick access to this on the nav bar on the left. I could also come into the search menu with nothing loaded whatsoever, and then go up to load group in the top right. And then from there, I can load my search. And this is a dynamic search. So it's only showing you the machines that currently meet these search parameters that we're seeing. Now, what's truly beneficial about automating this is that we can go into administration and then go down into tasks. And from here, we can run a script or multiple scripts. And in terms of what we're targeting here, maybe I would want to install an application using our native install application script in this context, which would allow me to upload up to a 1 GB MSI or EXE to our Amazon S3 servers, which will then push out to your endpoints. So I might want to upload my installer there, and then I would target my device here, or my devices, by targeting not an organization or specific devices, but rather targeting the search itself. And that lets Ninja do the heavy lifting of identifying what machines need to run a particular script based on those search parameters that you've entered. Now, we saw BitLocker status in there. We saw software inventory, of course, but this could include anything at all that we have in our filters, and it can also include anything that you can script. We have an option called custom fields, which can accept the output of a batch, PowerShell, or shell script. So if you can script the information that you want to pull and then write that into each device's custom field, that is additional criteria that you can then create automations off of. Now, that is how you can, some of the ways that you can ensure that your endpoints are secured and protected using the integrated AV or any application that we can detect as being installed. But let's talk a little bit about Ninja's security. What options do you have to control access into the Ninja platform? If we go under accounts and then into the security section here, you'll see a few different options. One is the MFA Global Administrative Time. I mentioned earlier that MFA is mandatory within Ninja, so everybody who's logging in does have to enter some form of MFA in order to get into the product. Now, within the actual session, and you might even see it on this call today, I'm going to periodically be reprompted to enter an MFA code to ensure that I am who I say I am, that nobody has taken advantage by hijacking a cached browser session. Now, how frequent those prompts are for those high-risk actions, which would encompass things like modifying your policy settings, adding or modifying a script, accessing the CLI, anything that could be harmful. You can essentially always require MFA just to ensure that you're always protected. You can introduce some sort of delay. You can go up to a max of 2 hours, but it cannot be disabled entirely. You can also control access into the system by restricting to a certain WAN IP right here. So only whitelisted WAN IPs would be able to log into the web app that we're seeing here. And of course, we also have a SAML authentication. So if you want to have them authenticate through your SAML SSO provider first, before logging in the Ninja, also a very good option to add an additional level of security into who is accessing your Ninja environment. We're going to go ahead and jump down into the policy section again, because I wanted to talk a little bit about patching. I know that that is something that's of heavy importance here, is ensuring that your machines are always up to date, always patched. Matt mentioned that was a huge topic at RSA. So let's go ahead and dive into one of these policies here and see how we can use the policy structure to push out our patches and make sure that all of our machines are always going to be patched. You can see here that this is a perfect example, patching not turned on in this policy right here. So we want to first turn that on at the top. Below that, you can see our scan schedule, which is identifying new patches, then our update schedule, which is going to actually download and install the patches that have been approved. Now, how does something get approved? That is going to occur down here. You can see the different categories of patches that we are receiving from Microsoft. And so I get 3 different levels of approval here. Maybe I want to auto reject certain categories of patches. And in that case, I'm doing that with the optional patches that we see right here. I might want to auto approve like I am with the important updates right here. So those are just getting rubber stamped. Then finally, I get my middle ground option, which would be the manual option that we see down here for feature updates. Feature updates would encompass the big builds of Windows 10, the upgrade to Windows 11, and then also the big builds of Windows 11. So having control over when those patches are being pushed out may be something that you want to have a human in control of rather than just rubber stamping. Now, most of your patches these days are going to require some form of reboot in order to finalize the installation. Ninja will automatically identify and show you an icon next to a device that has patched and does require a reboot. You can, of course, speed that process along right here using our reboot options. Now, we can handle that in one of 2 different ways. One is if the user is logged in, we might want to prompt them to reboot, and that prompt is customizable right here. And you can also control how many times somebody can defer the prompt until we just say, no, you are being rebooted on. You don't have a choice in the matter. Now, that's for workstations. For your servers, you might want to do nothing and handle your reboots of servers on a set schedule that you control. That way, you know there's a clearly defined point in time at which the device is going to be offline. Now, on the same note here, we can go down to our software tab. This is our software patching, and it looks very similar to the Windows patching that we were just looking at. Now, the software patching is powered by Avanti. They're our integrator, and that's who's providing us with these patches and testing everything. The Windows patches, of course, come directly from the Microsoft patch catalog. Now, I won't rehash everything right here, but I did want to show you the products tab here, where we can see a little over 140 applications that we can patch today. You can see that we can patch critical and recommended patches for everything in this list. Now, some of these applications we can install from scratch. You can see here that Adobe Reader that says no. We can go ahead and change that to a yes, and that way Adobe Reader would be installed on all devices that are on this policy. Now, again, not available for everything. We can see that Adobe Acrobat, for example, is NA, meaning that we can't install it out of the box. That's a limitation by the developer. However, we always have that install application script that I mentioned earlier that allows us to easily install applications through Ninja just by uploading that MSI or EXE. Now let's go ahead and shift gears a tad, going away from strictly cybersecurity into backups, which I would consider security adjacent for sure. Now, Ninja Backup is fully integrated into the Ninja One platform. We have a 3-step process for deploying. It is not separate from the agent. It is very easy once you have the actual Ninja agent deployed to deploy Ninja Backup on the back end. Now, the first thing you would want to do is go to the Apps Exchange on the left-hand side and then go into Ninja Data Protection. We would then enable that and then select the Amazon S3 bucket we want to use for cloud storage. Now, you don't have to use cloud storage. You do have to select a bucket, but you don't have to use cloud storage. You can back up locally, across the board and not use a single byte of cloud storage if you don't want to. Now, we offer 2 different types of backup. One, file and folder, would be considered document backup. So that would be files, folders that you want to have the ability to download or provide a self-service backup portal to, or have the ability to directly restore to an endpoint. I would contrast that with image, which is more for bare metal recovery, disaster scenarios where a server goes offline and you need to provision new hardware, and you want to have the image as it was exactly at the time that the last backup was taken. So 2 different options there. This is step 1 to turn on Ninja Backup, is this section right here. You can see pretty easy. Step 2 would be going into your organizations and then going down to the backups menu option right here on the left-hand side. And at that point, we would select what devices we want to back up. Do we want everything in this organizational unit? Do we want just a select device that we are selecting right here? Now, we can do the file and folder backup on both Windows and Mac devices. So we've got you covered for file and folder document backup for both Windows and Mac devices. However, image backup is only a component for Windows machines at this time. Now, once I select the devices I want to back up, I can control my bandwidth. That way it doesn't kill the entire network. This is a setting that can be modified per device. So if you do want the ability to kind of prioritize certain network traffic over others, you have that option. And you can also back up to local storage, anything with a UNC path that supports SMB 2.0 or greater. We would first want to go ahead and set up our NAS right here, need that UNC path and any credentials required to access it. And at that point, we're then setting a default for all devices in this org. We could also break that down by location here if we want. And finally, we can also modify that as a per device setting if we need to. That right there, step 2 to get Ninja Backup enabled. Step 3 is going into our policy section, and this is determining when and what exactly we are backing up. Now we know the device. This is going to tell us when and what we are backing up. And that's going to be a backup plan located under the backups option on the left-hand side here. I'll go ahead and add in a file and folder plan. You can see the options here. Most important is your revisions. How much data are you retaining? How many individual restore points do you want for every file and folder that you're backing up? In this case, we're doing 30, but if you want to limit that down to reduce the amount of storage that you're consuming through Ninja Backup, if you're backing up to the cloud, you can of course control that. You can use multiple limiters here to control the age of the files versus the individual restore points, as well as removing anything that the end user themselves has locally deleted. But I do like this security blanket option right here to keep the last revision of anything they deleted, just in case somebody emptied the recycle bin by mistake and happened to be, for whatever reason, storing important files in that recycle bin. And of course, we have similar options for the image backup as well. And that's it. Step 3 right there is it's a 3-step process. Very easy to get Ninja Backup deployed out to your devices. And at that point, we can then begin to manage that data. So we can come to the top level of the dashboard here. We'll see any backups that have failed. You can create tickets off of all of this. You can get alerts whenever a backup job fails or otherwise has some sort of issue. But if we need to restore anything, we just go into the backup tab here and then down to usage. And at this point, we can select a device and then we'll have the ability to initiate that restore process, whether it's entirely from the cloud, like a file and folder backup, we could just directly restore to their machine, or whether we need to download the image restore manager so that we can start the process of a bare metal recovery. I'm going to go ahead and find a particular machine here, Dr. Walsh's workstation, and I'm going to manage it. I'm going to demonstrate the file and folder restoration process just very quickly. You'll see our different backup plans here. This one grayed out because it's no longer actively being backed up. Still good valid data inside of there that we can utilize if we need to. But I'm going to go ahead and access the gold tier workstation policy here. I'm going to drill down into our directory here and I can see everything, the file structure that's being backed up here. And if I select this file, I'll see some options on the right-hand side to download to the machine I'm on now or to restore to another workstation in the same organization that also has backup enabled. So let's say they come in the morning into Clean Teeth DDS and Dr. Walsh's workstation is offline. It's non-operational, but there's critical data that we need from it. We need to get it to another machine so that the business for the day can be uninterrupted. We can go ahead and restore to another device in the same organization, like Dr. Abed's PC here. We can select the directory. We can overwrite any file name conflicts. And then finally, I can decide what version do I want. Do I want something from yesterday? Do I want something from last week? And then I can begin the restore process. Now that's a fairly small file, so that should go off with fairly quickly. I did want to show that from the end user portal that we were looking at earlier, in addition to being able to facilitate remote access and also submit tickets just into Ninja Ticketing, you have this icon over here on the right-hand side, which allows you to manage your file and folder backups. So if I wanted to identify a file and then download it to my machine right here, self-service, without having to involve an IT person, I can absolutely do that. Now let's go ahead and zoom back out just a tad. We can see here our backup job has done, but backups themselves, you'd say, okay, well, you're backing up and you're letting us know if anything went wrong. That's great. But the power of also having the RMM involved is that we can look for, sort of the underlying preconditions or the underlying assumptions that we need to confirm prior to the backup actually taking place. For example, maybe you are backing up to a NAS. You might want to ensure that that NAS is actually online. Otherwise, if the NAS is not online, then your backup's probably going to fail later that day. So being able to monitor that through the NMS tool that we see right here, that can be very useful. You can go ahead and install the NMS tool on a Windows server or workstation, anything that's going to always be online because that's serving as the relay back to the cloud. And you can monitor those devices. You'll see under administration and then policies, in addition to the agent policies that we spent a lot of time talking about today, we have the NMS policies. And this is where we can look for a Synology NAS like this one right here. And we can create an alert anytime that NAS is offline right here. And that can also create a ticket inside of Ninja Ticketing, or again, ConnectWise or Autotask, any third-party service that is integrating into Ninja. And you can get more advanced than this. That was a fairly basic example of just being up or down. However, we also have the ability to pull SNMP OIDs that you specify. Synology happens to be one of the ones that we have baked in out of the box. You can see the Synology NAS OIDs are already in here, but any OIDs that you want to monitor, you can bring them into the system, you can define their value, and then you can set a threshold that if it's above or below or at that particular threshold, you can then create an alert, create a ticket. And so that takes us out of just being able to monitor the up-down status of a Synology NAS and its relevance to our backup process, but then also the hard drive status. Is there a bad hard drive? Is the storage full? Those are all things that you can use the SNMP OIDs to essentially confirm that your critical network infrastructure, that your backups rely on, that your whole operation relies on, are still good, healthy, and operational. Let's go ahead and shift gears here to our third perspective, which is the help desk perspective. And this I would look at as more of like the day-to-day perspective. How are you making your operation efficient and streamlining on the day-to-day? And so let's go ahead and we've already mentioned some of the resources that you have available to you from the question mark in the top right. And we've also mentioned that you have the ability to speak with the sales engineer and discuss what the best way forward might be. Ninja is a very flexible platform. There are a lot of different ways to accomplish a task, and you might want to find what the most streamlined and efficient way to accomplish that task is by talking to an expert, somebody like me who is in Ninja all day, every day. Let's go ahead and back out here. We can see that on the left-hand side, we have our ticketing boards. And so I might want to look at all of my tickets here, see everything that's currently being created. I can, of course, create my own boards and only see tickets that are specifically relevant to me. Let's go ahead and click into a ticket here. This is just a basic tests ticket. But you can see here that I know my status of the ticket. Is it brand new? Is it open, meaning that I have to work on it and get back to somebody? Or am I waiting? I'm waiting on the end user to get back to me. Now below that, I can see who I'm dealing with here. We're corresponding with Anthony. And then I can see the device. Now, if you open up a ticket with Ninja Ticketing from that systray icon that we spoke about earlier, we're going to know the device that opened that ticket. And so we'll be able to have it associated right here. Now I have a quick link to get to that device, but then I also have my play button here, which gives me quick access to run ad hoc actions on this device. Maybe I want to run a script. Maybe I want to update the software. Maybe I want to reboot this machine. Maybe I want to remote into it using TeamViewer or Splashtop. I might also want to initiate an AV scan on this device. Since it's an Apple device, it's using WebRoot. And then I also have my backend command line tools. So terminal is root terminal, since this is a Mac device. Otherwise, it would be CMD or PowerShell on a Windows machine. And then I also get the task manager, the file browser to upload or download files, and the service manager. All these completely silent. So when I use these, I'm not bothering the end user. It's all hidden. It's all safely in the background. Now I can correspond right here with my requester, whoever is requesting assistance. And you can see that I can automate using the response templates up here. So this is another time saver. I always say it's your frequently used answers in response to frequently asked questions. Build those form responses in as response templates, and that gives you a one-touch macro so that anytime somebody's new computer setup is complete, for example, it goes ahead and fills in that text right here. Now it's not just filler text, it can automate the selection of the status over here. Notice that this was new at the beginning. Once I hit that response template, it jumped up into the resolved status right here. You can modify the assignee, the priority and severity. A lot of automations possible through Ninja Ticketing to help streamline the day-to-day. Now let's go ahead and look at other ways we can potentially save time from common actions. Let's go back into our policies here. Now our conditions, that's what we're monitoring and alerting on. You'll see that this is also what could potentially create tickets if I want a ticket created and not just an alert established on my dashboard. But how can we, again, speed this process up so you can focus on more of the big picture items? We can see here the spooler has gone down. I think it would be a really good idea if we had the ability to automatically start that service back up. And we can do that by virtue of running a script in response to that condition whenever it triggers. And in this case, I would use our default out-of-the-box script to start or stop a Windows service that we can see right here. This does pull from a list of the services that you actively have in the field. So this is not going to be sort of a generic list that we host. It is actually what you have installed on your devices. So now the spooler goes down. We can see that we're running a script to try and fix the issue. However, how do we ensure that this works? How do we know that that script is actually successful at remediating whatever the root cause of the issue is? And that's going to be determined by this right here, when no longer met. What that does, that option takes a more active look at the root cause of whatever triggered the condition, i.e. in this case, it's the print spooler being down. When that's no longer met, the print spooler is no longer down, we can then go ahead and reset the alert. And so that would clear the alert off of your dashboard, assuming you had this option selected here. However, that can also play into the ticketing system and the ticket that gets created from this alert. You can make it so that whenever this is resolved, whenever the alert is reset, either manually or by the when no longer met option, which is Ninja essentially self-closing the ticket, that would give you the ability to solve out that corresponding ticket or at least transition it to another status. So you do get an element of closed loop alerting here so that you can ensure that when you look at a ticket, that it's actually still a problem and not just sort of an open-ended ticket that ends up going nowhere. Now, this is one way to automate. I mentioned earlier that there are a variety of ways to automate within Ninja. Earlier, I talked about application deployment, and I used the search groups as a way to ensure that devices had all of the applications installed that they need. However, you could also do that as a software condition. The benefit of this being that it's immediate and it's always on. You're not relying on a scheduled point in time to do the check. It's just checking every minute to see if that software is there. And then if it's not there, we're creating an alert. I'll use Google Chrome just as a basic example here. You'll note that I'm using the asterisks as wildcards. So I'm capturing any application title that happens to have Chrome in there. Now that creates my alert. Again, I don't really care about the alert. What I care about is triggering my install application script here, or maybe my install Chrome script right here, to run whenever we detect that software is not installed, just to make sure that we have the application on the machine and that everybody is in compliance with what their policy says they should have in terms of applications or just all the criteria that we're specifying. And just as a to end on kind of the more customization, the better, in my opinion. So if you do have a need for monitoring something that you don't see in this list, I would point out to you script result condition. That runs a script on a recurring basis, looking for an exit code or a certain text string output from that script. And then when that is met, we'll go ahead and raise an alert. So anything that you could potentially script, that can also be a way for you to create alerts. And you'll notice here that we can also monitor those custom fields, kind of the same side of the coin there, which is the ability to script something so that you can then either search for it or alert on it. So again, a lot of ways to extend what Ninja is natively capable of to also encompass anything that you can do with Batch or PowerShell, which at this point seems like it is quite a lot. Just to end on one last little thing with automation, anything else that you might want to automate, I would highly recommend, after exploring the Ninja web app that we've been looking at so far today, you might also be interested in the API. If you come into the API section and go down to documentation version 2.0 new at the bottom here, and then over to the right-hand side, you'll see all of our documentation, information on how to access and get a grant type for the API up here at the top, but right down here in the bottom, we can see all the various endpoints that we have the ability to access, and you can actually test them all out in browser to see a JSON return for whatever the endpoint is giving us back. Now, this is informational, the get endpoints here, but if we go down, you'll see the ability to update certain endpoints in here as well. For example, custom field values, if you want to import data from another service into Ninja's custom fields. And then down here, more management actions that you can take. So if you are interested in automating extensively, I imagine at some point you will get to the API here. And that kind of runs me through it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Matt, who I think has something to announce.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Really good stuff. Let me pull up my slides here. I'm going to pass it over to Christine real quick. She's going to announce the winner of our giveaway for today. Then we'll talk about next steps and we'll jump into our Q&A. So Christine.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I hope we're all enjoying the webinar so far. I always like to say I'm here for the fun stuff. So if we can all pop in the chat and say a huge congratulations to our Oculus winner, who is Mike Brawley. Congratulations, Mike. Be on the lookout for an email from us and we'll get that out to you.
Awesome. Congratulations, Mike. Excellent. Thanks, Christine. So let me just point out some next steps you might want to take. I mean, obviously, our website, you're going to find a great deal of information there. Lots of product screenshots, and if you want to learn more about some kind of a deeper dive into things we do, how we're licensed, etc., you can find that there. There's also some customer case studies. There's some written ones. There's also some recorded ones. I would definitely take some time and read through those. I think you'll find probably some customers who you might have similar challenges with, and you can see what they've done to solve those. What I like about our customer stories page is you can filter it. So by whether you're an MSP or an internal IT department, the relative size of your organization or number of endpoints, what particular industry and what particular challenges are addressed in that case study, whether it's security or streamlining workflows or things like that, kind of helps you narrow it down to a case study that might be of most interest to you. So be sure to do that. And I'd also say, while you're on our website, you can schedule a custom demo. So I think Jeff's done an awesome job today. You may have some corner case things that you'd like to see on your own, and we can arrange for you to see that and schedule a demo with one of our folks to kind of walk you through some other things that might be of interest to you. And then finally, if you're up for it, request a free trial. Don't be hesitant to do that. We have folks here who can really help to support you, get you started, kind of give you some tips and tricks to send you on your way and do your own thing and at your own pace. Okay, so with that, I'm going to open it up to Q&A. And Jeff, I'm going to let you share your screen again, because I'm guessing some of these questions will prompt you to show things in the console, if that's cool. So if you want to take control, and we'll walk through the questions and get started. Sound good?
Sounds good. Was answering a few questions in the chat just now. But yeah, go ahead and
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so let's take a look here. I'll jump back in the chat, and I think, yeah, okay, I think it looks like some of these have been answered already, so that's good. So if you're in chat, you can see those there. Let me jump into the Q&A, the ones sent in the Q&A panel. Does Ninja One integrate Chat GPT today?
we do not. So no integration with ChatGPT today. I know that there are some people out there who are integrating it as kind of a way to auto-generate scripts. I think our general philosophy on that is that it's early. And that taking a script wholly generated by an AI and using it in a production environment is maybe not the best idea. And so we see a lot of potential there for ChatGPT. I personally think it's going to be very helpful with relational information and being able to spiderweb across the entire platform. No integration yet, but yeah, we are certainly keeping a very close eye on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, next question. What happens if the system gets hacked and someone begins changing policies?
Yeah, we saw earlier that high-risk actions do require an MFA code. So you're protected by your user login, potentially also by the SSO authentication that you would have to perform. But then you're also having to enter MFA in order to ensure that when you make those policy changes, that you are the person who should be logging in. So you do get the element of controlling that. And of course, with role-based access control, you can further restrict who actually has the ability to make restrictions to or changes to certain policies.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Next question. So for folks who are in a current trial, right? Once that trial ends, do they need to onboard their devices into the paid version of Ninja?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is no. Your trial can, we essentially flip a switch on the back end once you become a customer, and that then becomes your live production environment. So you don't lose all that work that you did. That being said, if you do want to delete all that work that you did and kind of start over from scratch, we can make that happen too. But the default is that your trial does become your paid account. It's just a switch we flip on the back end, nothing else that you would additionally need to do.
Fantastic. Thank you. And okay, for a user login, can you do single sign-on via AD or integrate AD for user login?
Yeah, so for Azure AD, we can do that. One login, really anybody who's SAML 2.0, we should be able to facilitate that through Ninja. I will be transparent about the fact that our SAML integration today is essentially based around forcing a user to authenticate through your provider in addition to authenticating through Ninja. So setting up the SSO integration today does not delete or disable the Ninja authentication or MFA in any way. We need to have the confidence that MFA is being respected. We are working on that as part of our development of the SSO integration, but MFA through Ninja is still going to be required today.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Here's another question about single sign-on. So it sounds like they're using single sign-on with Duo. And so will they still, says, will we still have to use your MFA, or can we turn off MFA on Ninja if we integrate with Duo?
Yeah, I got a little ahead of myself on that one, but yeah, you would still be subject to Ninja's MFA. We do not support the Duo push MFA today.
Got it.
Although we do support them for the SSO integration, and you can use their authenticator app. It just doesn't have the push element.
Okay, sounds good. Are backups incrementals or fulls?
So for file and folder, they're going to be incremental. Now for image, it's a little different. We essentially periodically toggle back and forth between full and incremental to ensure the integrity of the image. That's based off of a ratio of 75%. So when your incremental backups make up 75% of your initial full backup, we then go back and do another full backup.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff. Here we go. So do we plan to add more PC hardware details, such as monitor models and serial numbers? Today, it sounds like they're having to run a simple script to get this. So it's just a few lines of PowerShell, but do we have any plans to add more hardware details?
Yeah, I think it's starting to enter the realm of asset management, which we're very interested in. And so I would expect to see an expansion of that, but no near-term plans right now today.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, here we go. We're transitioning. Oops, I just lost that one. We're transitioning in-house from MSP, right? Can I have a device active in trial that is also managed by the MSP at the moment?
Yeah, good question. And no, you cannot. There can only be one Ninja installation on a device at a time. So if you did want to trial a device that was under management of a different Ninja tenant, you would need to uninstall it. We do have documentation in our dojo on how to do that, including a PowerShell script to make it happen. But yeah, there's no way to have essentially a device be on two separate instances of Ninja at the same time.
Got it. And have we been integrated with Jump Cloud today?
We have not integrated with Jump Cloud. There's no integration there, but I know that you can deploy the at least the Mac agent through Jump Cloud fairly easily.
Okay, got it. Next question. Can Ninja One allow me to leverage backup to image new systems from a golden image?
So I would say that Ninja Backup is more based around specific devices. It's not really intended to be a golden image deployment tool. So I'd say that's not really an intended or a supported application for us today. We wouldn't be able to do sort of golden image deployment at scale. There'd probably be too many variables that you would need to otherwise account for that a dedicated deployment imaging tool is going to give you that we would not give you today. So we're mainly based around restoring the endpoint, not necessarily deploying new endpoints. That being said, if you do have a golden image tool and you want to incorporate the Ninja agent into that, we can do that very easily so that as you do image, the Ninja agent is automatically a part of that newly imaged device. But there's no ability for us to serve as the people who are doing that imaging.
Got it. I think we've got two more questions here if we can get through them real quick. So for the network monitoring piece, is it charged the same way as a Windows node or endpoint?
That would be a question for your account executive or your account manager.
Okay.
It's less than a Windows node, but the pricing is different.
Okay.
And then for the bottom question there, the SNMP library, we saw that here under the library section. This is currently in an open beta here, so it's not going to be available for everybody. But if you do want it, we can turn it on for you. Just let your account manager know or your account executive know.
Got it. Okay. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Appreciate it. And so folks, we're out of time today. I'm going to go back through the chat Q&A just to make sure we haven't missed anything. If we have missed a question or run out of time, we will circle back around with you and answer those offline. So with that, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you found the demonstrations to be helpful. I sure did. I learned something new every time I see Jeff demo. He's obviously really good at it. So with that, we appreciate your time and hope to see you again down the road. Please take advantage of the next steps, arrange a custom demo, download your trial, whatever, and get even more familiar with the Ninja One platform. So with that, have a great day.
Bye, everybody.